Now another thing you can do is if you like kind of let your paint dry and give it a couple of coats, you can kind of get your shade to darken up a bit. So it's another little trick. All right, so we have yellow, orange. Now we're going to do orange. So orange should be a little more red and a little less yellow than what you used for your yellow orange. And you can just kind of, if you're really careful, you want to be careful that your other paints are dry, that you don't have, the other paints aren't drippy. You can kind of tilt your paint and drip it right into your Tupperware container. So I need to be really careful about the amount of red that I get in this because I want to be sure that I'm not getting it too red. I probably need to do like one more dab. Yeah, it's still pretty yellow. A little more red. Oop. Another thing to be careful of, be careful when you can use your brush, kind of scrape it against the side to get excess paint off, but be careful that you don't and splatter like what I just did right here. But the reason we're doing this color wheel first is just to get the hang of mixing the colors and handling the brush before you start working on your project. And these are the types of things that you'll learn as you're working with the paint. Still a little more red. I'm being a little bit very cautious here. Problem is, once you get almost to that point, it's real easy to take it over to, too much red, and then you have to keep working back and forth trying to get it just right. Okay, so orange looks like it's almost there. I think one more little dab of red should be good. Okay. I think that's probably pretty good. Yes, perfect. So there should be a nice visible difference, so you can see how it's gradually transitioning from yellow to orange. And basically what a color wheel is it is the color spectrum, which you will see in rainbows, bent into a circle. So it's kind of like taking a rainbow and putting it into a circle. Okay, so now I got to add the white. Oops, first I need to split this out. I want to get a little bit of this over on the other side here. You don't really need very much color for your shade, but you do have to be really careful that you don't add too much black and ruin it. So, there, that should be fine. Add some white. Ooh, that looks good. Grab a little more white. Okay, now we're going to do our tone with a little bit of black. So you want to be really careful. Check your brush and see what you see on there. You don't want to, you know, get it too dark and ruin it. Because if you mess it up and then you got to remix your color, that's a real hassle. You don't want to have that happen. Okay, I think that's just about right. Should be good. Got a little bit too much paint on my brush, so I'm brushing some of it off onto my scratch paper. I'm turning the way I'm angling the brush so that I can use that straight edge to help me get the, follow the outline, the straight edge of the shape. Remember, always clean your brush before you do your shade, and I let a little bit of white get into the black, so I want to just get that out real quick. So there we go. Tiny bit of black. That looks like that's just about perfect. So when I'm going into the corner here, I have the brush with the, you know, the one of the corners of that flat end pointing into the corner of the pie wedge. And when you're painting, when you're doing brush strokes, you want to do strokes with the brush where you are pulling the brush towards you, so you're moving the brush away from the end of the bristles this direction. You do not want to be scrubbing back and forth with the bristles. That is not something that you really do with this type of painting and this type of brush, because it'll ruin the brush. All right, and now we're on to our red orange. And remember, always keep your brush out of the water when you're not using it. Don't leave it soaking in the water. Okay. So even though this is going to be mostly red, I'm still starting with the yellow. And generally when you're mixing your colors, you always want to start with the lighter color that you're mixing. And so in between, you know, between red and yellow, red is substantially lighter, so I'm going to start by adding in my lighter color first. And now I'm going to be a little bit more, you know, I don't have to be as careful now because I know I need to add a good amount of red. Actually, that's looking pretty good. I think I need to do one more scoop of that. And paint a little test down and check it with my tester. I think I need to do just a little more red. Okay, and that looks good. Yep, that's very good. Okay. All right, and move some of this over to, You want to move your paint for your shade over to like the diagonal corner, because if you put it just, you know, next, the corner right next to where you're mixing your tint and your tone, sometimes the color will, you know, bleed across, and you really want to be careful that you're not ending up with any white in your shade. Okay, that's important. So in addition to just getting used to handling the paint and the paintbrush, making a color wheel, another purpose for doing the color wheel is to give you experience with how to get different types of colors and to learn how different colors are made. Because obviously most of the time when you're painting, you're not going to be working with only your primary colors, black and white. But this is an exercise in understanding color as much as anything else. And so that's why you're limited to just the primary colors, black and white, because that way you are actually experiencing, you know, all these different colors that you can get by combining, because you can get just about any color that you can imagine with the primary colors, black and white. So whenever you're working on any type of art project, the more you use a certain media is the word that you use for, that's the materials that you're using to make the artwork with. So the media that's being used on this color wheel is watercolor. So the more you use any particular media, the better you get with it, the more control you have. And that's why a lot of times when we're doing projects, you're using the same media for multiple projects. Okay, so you would continue the same process to mix your yellow green, green and blue green, and then the same process for blue violet, violet, and red violet. And then your color wheel will be done.